worked.
You can set, that's an option.
Where do you set that? I saw one at a time, but they still all have to approve.
So let's do parallel, so you could get in that situation.
That's 3 emails a month?
Yep, and let's do, please review the, review the resume and indicate response. So I'm going to get a quick okay, and we're going to go in here. And let's say, instead of approved or rejected, we hire. Away, which again is the same as, and maybe later, or maybe a better one would be for this position, indicating that maybe they'd be better in another department. So then I can go ahead and just delete those guys. Apparently I've exceeded my character. Okay. Oh, your question was how to do, if one person approves, then it's all, then yeah, it's,
way to create a custom one, you can say like one was
here we go. So when a task completes, it's saying, and again, so everything you see in here was because I chose the, let me go back out to the workflow, because I chose the start approval process activity, which is basically a pre-configured one of these. There's a start custom test process, and then this is, the start approval process is this, but with a bunch of stuff pre-configured. So that's why we see all of this stuff instead of empty blocks here. So when a task completes, if it's approved, then I can log something. So I could say right here, I know one person approved it, so I could just end the process here. So you can see that that's not how it's currently configured. If it's rejected, I can, there's already some logic in here, but I have to end the approval process right here if they approved it.
So it still has the word approved in there, but you've changed it to hired. Is that the alias for approved or?
Well, the approved, yeah. So I would have to go in and change these over. That's exactly right. So yeah, because these are going to end up as on their task form. So they're going to get assigned a form, and these are going to end up as buttons in the task form. What's that? So I could go in and type those things in there.
But the way you have it right now, it sends it out to a group, emails, creates tasks for everyone in that group, and then it's considered complete when they all respond to it.
Yeah. So if we go back here, actually, okay, so this one will actually say complete everything action is completed. If the number of all the tasks have been completed, so actually this would probably be the better place to do the completion based on if one person approves. So this, like I said, like it says, this block runs every time any task of the task process completes. So I can set variables. I can log things to the history log, and then when everything's finished, when the count equals the total count, and it's approved, then I set an approval status and I end the task process. So, some other things are,
I have a question.
yes,
In 2007, I tried to create where it started out the process and I wanted to collect comments from multiple people and then have the approval process by one person at the end, where they could see all those comments.
Mhm.
I just could never seem to get in there.
so one easy way to do that would be go, here's all my workflows,
Mhm.
here's my collect feedback workflow out of the box.
Mhm.
So I could say, copy and modify. My custom.
It would always stop with that first person's comments, and it was like, that would be their answer, the answer.
So here's a collect feedback action, which is essentially very similar to the, if you go back down here. So remember, the start custom test process, a blank slate, and then you have approval process and feedback process, which are pre-configured versions of that. And this is essentially what this guy is. And then I can say approval. And then I can configure that to my liking. And so now I have my feedback and then approval process, right after each other, now done. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Mhm.
Okay.
I have a slightly related question. What happens to all those 2007 workflows when you create 2010?
That are already out there? What do you mean?
There have been problems with workflows in the past with SharePoint upgrades, so they were okay, and then are they available here and can you modify them?
Migration from 2007 to 2010.
You know, I'm not positive as far as, as far as upgrading, they should be okay. I mean, they should still be able to run and because they're still running in a declarative manner. But as far as, am I able to import them in here and change them? That I'm not sure of. That's a good question. I would guess that you'd be able to, because these are all just declarative. I can do this. I can do this to the copy modify to any other declarative workflow. So my assumption would be yes, you could do that, but I'm honestly not positive. It's a good question. Because then obviously you can package it up and make it reusable. So some of the other things are, parallel. We talked about that. I can say, assign a to-do item. Then I also want to. Sometimes you really got to watch where your cursor is. And then, stuff like that. So the impersonations, we talked about that. Will run as the workflow author instead of the current user, so you can do some more high privilege things in there. I mentioned some of the other activities, such as setting the workflow status, setting variables. Workflows have variables, so if you need to grab, store some piece of data and get back at it, like if you're doing string manipulation or date time calculations. You can also do things like initiation form parameters. So when the workflow starts, an initiation form. So maybe I want to gather, approver name, single line of text, and I want to grab that on initiation when this workflow is starting. I don't need a default value. And then whenever, if I go back and look at the workflow configuration, I can see that that is going to show up to the user in a custom generated form whenever the workflow starts. So let me create another very simple workflow and deploy it out so you can see the visualization. That's kind of neat. So we'll just do assign a to-do item. And then I want to email somebody. Okay. and save this. I'm going to publish it. And then I'm going to actually go out to my site. Go to show documents. You can see my workflow there. So this is the association phase of the workflow. I'm taking this workflow that I created, test of app association. I'm specifying where the task list is, what the workflow history list is. Each workflow always has a task history list. And I'm only going to start the workflow in this one manually because, I actually forgot a step here. I'm going to go back to Designer and show this workflow visualization on status page. All it is checking a checkbox. I'm going to republish that. So now I'm going to add a document here. Document will do. I'll upload the PowerPoint presentation I'm presenting. I will go ahead and start with this workflow. So a couple things have happened. I get a new column called test with the name of the association that I provided, with the status. So I can create a custom status if I wanted to. By default, it's just to say in progress. I'm going to click that and get the status screen. And you can see this Visio services dialog comes up, which is Silverlight, and it will show me what's going on. I can drag this and move this around. So you can see this little indicator right here indicates that that's the thing I'm currently on. And if this was completed, which I'll show you in a second, it will turn to a check mark, and then this one will happen instantly, and then it will be. And then you can see down here, here's my task. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And I'm going to go ahead and complete it. And I can, this screen right here was generated for me, but I could have changed this. I could have collected some data from the user. I can make it look like whatever I want inside InfoPath without writing any code. So the task was completed, the email was sent, and you can scroll up and see that the workflow has been completed. So you can do quite a bit. Not that that was that complex, stretch the imagination, but you can do quite a bit without writing any code, especially with the use of InfoPath and Designer. So, any questions so far? I know I'm breezing through some of this stuff, but I wanted, like I said, this was a broad level, kind of soup to nuts overview of workflow in 2010. So let's hop over to Visual Studio. The tooling in Visual Studio for SharePoint in general is awesome. They really, whereas anyone that did workflow, did anyone do any kind of development in 2007 in Visual Studio?
A little bit.
Okay, well, it was very painful. I guess that's all I need to say, since there wasn't many people that did that. It was really a second class kind of citizen. There was a lot of community tools that grew up to assist the development process, because you have to create features and solutions. I don't know if anybody's familiar with those. But those are the packaging techniques you use to deploy custom solutions to SharePoint. You always use features and solutions. Visual Studio gave you next to no support for doing that. Microsoft came out with some add-ins, but in my opinion, they were not very good, and the community tools were much. But now is just phenomenal. They went the extra mile in Visual Studio to make the development support just fantastic. Support for workflow forms. Easily go in and say, I want to add to my workflow an association form or an initiation form. It'll create my ASPX pages for me. Pluggable workflow services. This is something new in 2010. So a workflow service, and this is a very .NET 3.3.5 workflow thing. Workflow 4 has something similar, but a very specific thing to